All right, guys, what's happening? Robert here, Blazing Press, BP News channel, and we're covering now what's happening with this end-time apocalyptic president who we knew from the very beginning would be doing what he's doing. All right, guys, what's happening? I got my background on there. We knew that he would be doing this, and this was exactly what we expected from the last 4 or 5 years, just because we're, tapped into what his real agenda is, and his body language and everything else that he says, the dark sayings, everything that he is, and I'll even say prophesied by the dark side, because we've looked into some of the ancient. The ancient prophecies actually do talk about 2025. You can go back to the Zohar and the Essenes. They talk about 2025. But just in the last few hundred years, the prophecies of Trump, you can go back to, Barron's Greatest Adventure. I think it was late 1800s, talked all about Trump. And you may think that's crazy, but you go check it out, and you tell me if that's not. I mean, it says his name. It says where he lives on Fifth Avenue. It says basically he goes into Russia. And then there's another book by the same author, The Last President. He is the last president. There's all kinds of Moonchild, Aleister Crowley. Tell me that's not demonic preparation for what's to come. And then all the other things that have happened along with Trump. Anyways, I'm just telling you what's happening right now with this threat. Remember I told you he used the N-word. He kept saying the N-word. There's 2 N-words we don't use. It's 2 N-words. We don't use the N-word and then this N-word that, Russia used. And so Russia, I guess, back when I told you guys about this, is when Putin responded, and I believe he said something to the effect of, and remember, I just brought this up the other day. He had said this months ago when all this was happening with Israel or with Iran. This all came about because of Iran. And I'm going to try to make sense of this right now, okay? And by the way, before I get into this, we're gonna be doing our devotional after this is over. But I wanted to address this quickly right out the gate because this is so important, what's happening right now. He's addressing the generals. All the generals are together. They're preparing for war. This is what they're doing. They're preparing for war. What ended up happening was I made a statement the other day about this particular. I mentioned the statement that Trump had made a few months back. And this is in relation to Iran and them getting a nuke. Russia said, and this is what Putin had said, is that it's very easy for a country to send Iran a nuclear warhead. Any country that's nuclear can send them a nuclear warhead. That was a veiled threat, I believe, to Israel and to the United States that, yes, it's very simple. They've got the delivery system already. They already have the missiles that can deliver a nuclear bomb. All they need, if they really need it, if they didn't actually have one yet, is a country like Russia or China could send them a nuclear warhead. And remember, that's when Trump responded and said, oh, he was really upset. Putin said the N-word. Putin said the N-word. And that's when he issued the nuclear sub, supposedly, to go over there, right? So he makes the same threat once again. Why is he bringing this back up? Why is Trump bringing this back up? Because we're getting closer to a confrontation, and this is another threat. Like when you're watching two people starting to get ready to fight, and they get in each other's face, they start yelling and screaming. They get to a point where they go over the top, right? And then they start to throw fists. This is when they start mixing it up, right? This is where we're at right now. We're getting to the point now where we're about to see fists being thrown, and you're seeing it right now in the proxy wars. The proxy wars are getting really hot right now. If you see what Russia's doing to Ukraine right now, This is the beginning of hardcore fisticuffs between nuclear powers. Okay, so this is much worse than what happened during the Cold War. You know, with our proxies and everything else going on in between Russia and the United States, this is much worse, and we probably are going to see nukes flying. This general gathering of generals right now is huge. There is something very big going on here. And I'm going to read you what they said. We'll go ahead and get into some of this. And let me just see here. Let's just go to the AP here really quick, because I think this is what we're needing to look at here. Look at this. Look at this. We're just going to get into this right now. Let's just start for the live portion right now, and then we'll go over and we'll review. Let's just see what the heck he's saying right now.
Wall Street Journal, they always give us unfair stories, but they played it so big. They were playing it so big. Nobody wants to join the Army, the Marines, the Air Force. They don't want to join. They don't want to join the Coast Guard at all. Nobody wants to join. Nobody wants to join our police forces. Our police forces also. It's almost went hand in hand. And I used to say, boy, I'm speaking in front of the military today, and it's embarrassing because I'm speaking in front of people who have a job that other people don't want, but now you have a job that everybody wants. So I think that has to make you feel good. It's one of the reasons I love being here today, because I wanted to say that. I have to say that everybody wants to be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. If you think the Coast Guard and Space Force, our beautiful Space Force, it's a whole different world. And now they're signing up, by the way, seriously big numbers for the police. Dangerous job, isn't it? Huh? Fire department. But that's the paving the way for progress once thought almost impossible. I mean, a year ago, you wouldn't have thought that was possible. A year ago, they were talking about making the military smaller because they can't get the people to join. We're thinking about making it larger because we have so many people. And it's nice to be able to cut people because of merit that aren't really qualified for any reason, a physical reason, a mental reason. You don't have to take them anymore because you have the pick of the litter, and they all want to be with you. They all want your job. They want to be with you. They want to work with you. They'll even take your job, Got to be a little bit sharp. You got to watch it. But everybody wants to be doing what you're doing now. What a difference when I speak to you, and I can say that as opposed to a couple of years ago when I was talking to rooms where they were desperate to get people and they couldn't get them. What a difference a presidential election can make. That's all it is. It's just a presidential election. Yesterday at the White House, we put forward a plan for peace in Gaza. We announced it, and we're going to create something that was my idea, but unfortunately I got drafted. It's going to be called the Board of Peace, and it's going to reign over that territory, and we're going to get that done. And they asked if I'd be the chairman of the Board of Peace. I wasn't counting on that. I had the idea for the Board of Peace, but I said yes, and I guess because of that, every leader, everybody wants to be on the Board of Peace, and we're going to watch over that very volatile part of the world and keep it non-volatile, so you don't have to get involved. We want to save you for other things or save you for nothing from that standpoint. We don't want you fighting wars, but if you have to, you're the most lethal fighting force in the world. And I would say that even 2-3 years ago, but now I say it with great enthusiasm. It's so true. And we're striving tirelessly to end the terrible war in Ukraine. And as you know, we're also working hard to get the allies to share more of the burden of our defense. Much of that has really already taken place. But all NATO members have committed to the increase that I talked about. Think of that. That was unthinkable. It used to be 1%, then we got it up to 2% in my last term. And they did not like it. And now I got it to 5%, and I get along great with all of them. In fact, they call me the president of NATO. I said, I don't think so. But they're great. They're great people, and they're spending a lot of They're spending a lot of money, and a lot of money that they should have been spending in the past. But I think Putin was a wake-up call for them, really. We're now selling large quantities of American-made weapons to NATO, and we're getting really fair pricing. We're making a lot of money. It's my hope that from Europe to Asia to the Middle East, our allies will make similar commitments to increase their military capabilities. And this will greatly strengthen our alliances, and also it will make war far less likely. You know, if you're a strong presence like we are such a strong presence now. And I go around bragging about that. I said, we have the strongest military anywhere in the world. I say it. You never heard Biden say that. You never heard him say anything. But you never heard him say, did you ever hear him say, we have the strongest military? He doesn't say that. I say it. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have great leadership. And I'll tell you, Pete and General Kane, and all of the people that I've met that have been lifted up in rank. And we got many of them out of here, too. I'll be honest with you. Didn't like doing it, but we got many of you out of here because we weren't satisfied. We know everything about everybody. It'll also help the United States rapidly rebuild our defense industrial base. Each of you can play an important part in getting allies to do their part. So to that end, Secretary Hegseth will soon be announcing major reforms to streamline military acquisitions and expedite foreign military sales. We have tremendous numbers of countries that want to buy our equipment, and you know, in many cases it takes too long. They're backlogged. We're backlogged on all the equipment, which is something that's new to us a little bit. And I told those companies, you better get your ass going, because we're selling you a lot of equipment. We're getting countries to buy your equipment. You got to produce the equipment. Some of the countries, I'm not going to mention, but some of the countries are buying a lot. And that's a good thing. They're on our side 95%. I'll never say 100% because it can always turn, right? You know about that. But they're on our side. The problem is we have to get the companies that make this equipment, and we make the best equipment in the world, but they got to make it faster. We have orders for the F-35. We have orders for everything. The new F-47. We have orders for everything. They got to make it faster, a lot faster. Ammunition they have to make faster. In the coming months, we'll be making even more historic announcements to fully embrace the identity of the Department of War. I love the name. I think it's so great. I think it stops wars. The Department of War is going to stop wars. If we are as ruthless and relentless as our enemies, the United States Armed Forces will be totally unmatched in the future. We have a group of enemies that are very ruthless and very smart, but they can't match us. They can't match us. They don't even come close to matching us. Again, you know, it's very important for me to say we are the greatest military in the world, but we make the best equipment in the world. I watched our anti-missile missiles. I watched our Patriots just knock things out like a needle, hitting another needle on the stage. There's a needle up there, and you send another needle up, and it hits it every time. During the war, we went 14 for 14. We had 14, this is with Iran, we had 14 missiles coming at us. All 14 were knocked out of the sky, every one of them. We make the best equipment. From Sparta to Rome, to the British Empire, to the United States of America, history has shown that military supremacy has never been simply a matter of money or manpower. At the end of the day, it is the culture, spirit of our military that truly sets us apart from any other nation. Our ultimate strength will always come from the fierce people, and those brilliant people with such pride, and the unbending will and the traditions of excellence that have made us the most unstoppable force ever to walk the face of the earth. And that's what we are. Remember, we never want to use it, but we have the most powerful nuclear capability, and I call it nuclear deterrent of any other country. Nobody close. The men and women in this room inherit the legacy built and won by Washington and Jackson, Grant and Pershing, Eisenhower and Patton, Nimitz and LeMay. We carry forward the majestic military heritage passed down from father to son, soldier to soldier, and one generation of warriors to the next. You are warriors, you know that, right? You're great warriors, or you wouldn't be in this room. You're the best of the best. From Concord Bridge to Fort McHenry, from Gettysburg to Manila Bay, from Normandy to Sicily, and from the jungles of Vietnam to the dusty streets of Baghdad, America's military has charged into hellfire, climbed up jagged mountains, crossed roaring oceans, and thundered across open deserts to defend our flag, our freedom, and our homeland. Nobody does it like you. Now we are discovering American muscle, reasserting American might, and beginning the next story chapter in American military legends and lore. That's L-O-R-E. It is lore. When it comes to defending our way of life, nothing will slow us. No enemy will stop us. They cannot stop us. And no adversary will stand in our way. They won't stand in our way. We don't want them to stand in our way. We don't want to even put them in that position, but they're not going to stand in our way ever again. You'll never see 4 years like we had with Biden and that group of incompetent people that ran this country that should have never been there. Because we had the United States military, the best, the boldest, the bravest that the world has ever seen, that the world has ever known. With leaders like we have right here in this beautiful room today, we will vanquish every danger and crush every threat to our freedom in every generation to come, because we will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. I want to just thank you once again, and God bless the United States military, and God bless America. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so he went on for like an hour, and people are saying that he just rambled on and on and on, and just actually was longer than that. He went on for an hour and 15 minutes. An hour and 15 minutes. So this is a preparation for war. This is we can go back and rewatch some of that, but he did talk about, I'll give you the highlights. Let's just do the highlights of what he said here. I'll probably repost this here on our channel. Let's see where we got here. We'll post some of the highlights here. Look what I said here. Trump sounding crazy and is leading the world into World War III. I mean, literally, when you really listen to what he's saying, I know he's trying to sound like we're so far advanced, we're so far above, we're so far from being touched. We have the ability to knock down all your missiles. Just understand that we can crush you like a bug. Nobody wants to mess with the USA. And I'm president now. There's nothing ever been like this ever in the history of the world. I am the president of peace, strength through peace, peace president. You know, and really what is really happening here is they're escalating. It's like shaking a bottle of Coke. You know, you've got it capped on, and all he's doing is just shaking this thing hard. And eventually this thing is going to blow, because I mean, look at him. He's doing this weird dance. Tell me this doesn't look creepy. Okay, I want you to see this clip here. Just watch this clip. Let me get the clip up here really quick here. Media viewer. Okay, here we go. This reminds me when he made fun of the cripple dude. Remember when he made fun of that cripple guy and he started dancing around like he was a cripple? Remember that? And everybody was so upset. This reminds you of the same thing. Look at this.
Legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, bop, bop, bop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen. And it only takes once. But he did a lousy job as president.
So he didn't like the way Obama would bop up and down the stairs of Air Force One. He was saying he probably would fall down like Biden, right? He doesn't want to do that because obviously you can't do that when you're almost 80 years old. I mean, Obama, when he was in office, what was he, in his 50s or 40s, late 40s, going into his 50s? Or getting close in there, somewhere in there. You can kind of do that when you're younger. So I don't know what I know he's angry. The thing about Trump is he's very vindictive. He still seethes. He's seething about past problems, political problems, and slights that he had received that he needs to pay back. This is his payback. And so he's in a place now where he's unchallenged. There's nothing going to stop him from paying people back. He is a man of vengeance. He talks about that very, very much in his book, about how he takes vengeance on people and how he goes about taking vengeance. Now, here's Trump saying that we're under invasion from within.
But I announced that, based on his mention of nuclear, and it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear. I moved a submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, but it's something we don't ever want to even have to think about. But when somebody mentions it, that submarine started immediately thereafter. And it's just lurking, but I'm sure we're not going to have to use it. But it's an amazing, it's undetectable, totally. Ours is, theirs isn't. Theirs are totally detectable. We can detect them easily. We go right to the spot. But we have genius apparatus that doesn't allow detection. It doesn't allow detection at all by anybody above water or below water. It's incredible. We're way ahead of everybody in that and other things. As a result of the exciting renewal of the spirit of our armed forces, and that's what it is. It's really reaching that spirit, unprecedented heights over the past.
Okay, so that was the clip where he speaks about the nuclear capabilities. Let's see if this is the right one here.
Legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the stairs.
All right, that was the bebop one. I'm sorry. Let's see. That was Obama. Okay, let's try this one here.
Together with many of you in the room, we've brought back the fundamental principle that defending the homeland is the military's first and most important priority. That's what it is. Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms.
Okay, so Trump is now saying that we're at war on the homeland, that we are literally fighting foreign adversaries from within. And this is why they're rolling out all of these troops inside of America. He also made statements about D.C. being worse than any place in the world in terms of a battlefield. I think it was D.C. He said, we should use some American cities as training grounds for our military. Look at Portland, Oregon. It's a war zone. It's like World War II. Do you know what World War II was like? To say that Portland, Oregon is like World War II? I don't see weapons being used in the military style weapons being used there. I don't see mortars. I don't see missiles. I don't see napalm or whatever they were using back then. I mean, you're talking about a military operation he is going to bring about here on the homeland. This is what he's saying. Now, if this is true, this is exactly what Dmitry Duduman said. Dmitry Duduman said that the Lord showed him, this was back in the late 80s, when there was no indication that the United States and Russia were even capable of going to war with each other. Because at that time, the Iron Curtain fell, Russia was in shambles. We were actually trying to help stabilize Russia, the United States. We were giving them money to try to stabilize everything that was going on in Russia. And he prophesied this, the Lord showed him that there would be a day when Russia would rise back up, they would become a threatening bear once again, and they would attack America when America was consumed and internal uprisings would be taking place and there would be trouble from within. The government would be looking in, and this is when China, Russia, and another couple countries, he said, that were going to conspire at their meeting. They were going to have some kind of meeting, and they were going to conspire to attack America. Now, what did Trump say about 2 weeks ago, a week or so ago? I think it was about 2 weeks ago, when China, Russia, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, when they all met. Remember what he said? Oh, you're conspiring to attack us in this meeting. Trump was very upset because he couldn't figure out, obviously, when you meet, face to face without any kind of connection to the internet or any kind of devices, you can say whatever you want to say in private. Nobody's going to hear you at that point. That's why they like the face-to-face meetings. And this is another reason why they're saying that these generals are meeting, is because they want to be able to talk without any devices being able to track what they're saying. But this is what Trump had said, that they were getting ready to attack, and they were planning, to double cross us, or to betray the United States. Remember when he said that about 2 weeks ago? And so this is setting the stage for exactly what Dmitry Duduman said. Now, a lot of people will bring up his prophecies. Not only that, but A.A. Allen's prophecies in the 50s, which were eerily similar to Dmitry Duduman's prophecies. And, I'll just tell you the prophetic dream that I had 15 years ago is in line with that. Now, I personally was able to meet Dmitry Duduman twice back in the early 90s, or it might have been mid-90s, I think it was. He came to our small little home group. It was a small home group. And that was before he became, every Christian network and Christian church, mega church wanted him to come and talk because of his testimony. But if you've ever heard his testimony, you'll understand why the Lord spoke to him the way he did, and why he warned America. In the context of his testimony, it was kind of odd. It was very odd. He didn't even speak English. Well, he did speak English, but he didn't speak it well enough to preach. He had his grandson as his interpreter. And I think that the reason why I met him, and we actually had things sent to him from our area, there was some people that I kind of coordinated a big, donation to his ministry, because he was very close to our location, and they would send over items into Romania, because Romania was his homeland, and there were a lot of suffering children there because of, back in the 80s, it was the fallout from a lot of what happened under Ceausescu. What Ceausescu was doing was he was taking children and he was trying to build an army of children that were committed to the state, right? They were basically looking up at the nanny state, that the president was daddy, you know what I mean? And so they would take these children and they would raise them in orphanages, and they would indoctrinate them and militarize them and train them so they would be completely and utterly devoted to the state. And this was right before Dmitry prophesied his death and said that he and his wife would be publicly executed. And this is about the time that he was exiled. I think he prophesied that right before he was exiled, or maybe it was after. But they tried to, execute him, which didn't work. And the story is just amazing because he was basically on death row in a certain way because they gave the order to kill him. But unfortunately for the executioner and the captain of the prison, he dropped dead with the orders in his hand. So that stopped that whole thing. Nobody wanted to touch him after that because they knew he had some kind of other force that was protecting him. But they exiled him to the United States. Well, then he started prophesying about why he was here. The Lord showed him that he was to warn the U.S. about an imminent attack. When he said imminent, not imminent, but a future attack that was very soon, that would come to America's shores, and it would happen by way of nuclear submarines that were off of our coast. And he explained which states would be totally and utterly decimated by this overwhelming attack that wouldn't be deterred, it wouldn't be repelled, and our defenses, as he stated here, would stop a pin needle in the sky. Remember how he said that? Oh, our defenses are able to knock a pin out of the sky. So he's putting confidence in something that may not be a reason for us to have confidence. Why is he trying to build confidence in our defenses and our military equipment? Because I think a lot of countries, especially China, is far in advance with their technologies now. I mean, there's videos I look at now that, in terms of AI and robotics and all this technology that China has, that looks like it completely far outpaces anything that anybody has on the planet right now. I mean, they've got exoskeletons that they're selling to the public. You know what an exoskeleton is? It's basically a computerized AI-driven piece of equipment you put on your body so that you can run like Superman, literally. And you don't even have to do anything. It's just kind of like an electric bike. When you just start to turn the pedals, it just starts going, right? You just barely start doing what you're going to do. If you're going to start running, you just go a little faster, but it takes your body and it makes you run. And it has the ability through AI to sense everything so that it makes you stable. Okay, I'm telling you, this is what China has right now. And they're selling it to the public already. I mean, they're way in advance in their production, everything. Now, Trump speaks big. Trump speaks positive. Trump gives a hope, but is it a hope that's true? Is it real? Or is he just whispering sweet nothings into our ear and they're not true statements? And we shouldn't be resting it and trusting in the fact that we're going to go to war anyway, that we have the most powerful military that can repel incoming nuclear missiles. I mean, what happens if 5% of them get through? Let's just say they unleash all of their nukes. And we're talking about nuclear missiles that are hypersonic. Can they really shoot down hypersonic missiles? I don't think there's anything that can shoot down a hypersonic missile. I mean, maybe if you have some kind of advanced, laser technology, but even then, I mean, you've got hypersonic missiles coming in. and you do that overwhelming swarm of force, a swarming event, there's nothing that's going to stop. And by the way, A.A. Allen saw that they came in and our defenses missed. They came, they went up, they missed, they came in and they hit. So, you might want to go back and review some of those prophecies, because it looks to me like we're right at that moment where we're watching all these things unfold. I mean, everything is in order. Everything is in line. Everything is in its position and place. And I'm the person that analyzes things pretty intently, whether it's prophecy, of Scripture, or prophecies that are current contemporaries that are talking about events that are coming. When all these things start to overlap and overlay like a layer, one upon another, and they all fit, you better start paying attention. You better start paying attention. And not to mention the fact that Trump is meeting all the prophecy markers of that end-time leader that would ultimately bring about the digital currencies, the digital tracking and tracing, the man of peace that ultimately makes war on the whole world. I mean, it says he speaks like oil, but in his heart is drawn swords. And he comes to make war. He's not making peace, but he speaks peace, right? And then they all give him these awards that he's the chairman of the peace department. Are you kidding me? The chairman of the peace department? Oh my gosh, come on. Let's go back and listen to this. I want to hear this. I'm kind of curious to hear what they said. Let's just go back and review this. You guys mind? You guys all want to hang out with me? Well, I'll commentate as we go. I'll commentate on this as we go. I want to hear what Hegseth had to say.
Repeated ever since. Dates to the 4th century Rome and has been repeated ever since, including by our first commander-in-chief, George Washington, the first leader of the War Department. It captures a simple yet profound truth. To ensure peace, we must prepare for war. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is that.
Oh, wow. Check this out. So I'm sitting here watching this, and look at this. Oh, it says 668. It just said 666. I just missed it. It just went up. Dang it. I wanted to show you that. 666. Tell me that's not creepy, okay? Anyways, that was weird, and then you guys missed it. Dang it. I was just a little bit too late. It went up really quick, but I happened to see it. So anyway, let's just go back.
This: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war, but it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. The president talks about it all the time. It's called peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores.
Okay, we got some breaking alerts here real quick. So now there are ballistic missile alerts all over eastern Ukraine. Huge amount of ballistic alarms going on in Kiev and several regions. So Russia's responding, and they're probably doing this on the back end of this conference that Trump just had with the generals, all of these generals that are meeting. I tell you, this is a direct message. What we're seeing right now has everything to do with Russia, and I'm sure Iran. It's not so much. I really just think that this is all intertwined and interrelated. Everything that's happening right now, it's all connected. But if anything major hits here, I'll definitely go into this and stop the feed here and tell you what's popping off, because I'm looking at live feeds right now, and I'll let you know. But let's just listen to what he had to say here.
Human history. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient to something or someone. It's a truth as old as time. And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose, or any war that is thrust upon us. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both. As President Trump has said, and he's right, we have the strongest, most powerful, most lethal, and most prepared military on the planet. That is true, full stop. Nobody can touch us. It's not even close. This is true largely because of the historic investments that he made in his first term, and we will continue in this term. But it's also true because of the leaders in this room and the incredible troops that you all lead. But the world, and as the chairman mentioned, our enemies get a vote. You feel it, I feel it. This is a moment of urgency, mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow. There is no time for games. We must be prepared. If we're going to prevent and avoid war, we must prepare now. We are the strength part of peace through strength. And either we're ready to win or we are not. You see, this urgent moment, of course, requires more troops, more munitions, more drones, more Patriots, more submarines, more B-21 bombers. It requires more innovation, more AI in everything and ahead of the curve. More cyber effects, more counter-UAS, more space, more speed. America is the strongest, but we need to get stronger and quickly. The time is now, and the cause is urgent. The moment requires restoring and refocusing our defense industrial base, our shipbuilding industry, and onshoring all critical components. It requires, as President Trump has done, getting our allies and partners to step up and share the burden. America cannot do everything. The free world requires allies with real hard power, real military leadership, and real military capabilities. The War Department is tackling and prioritizing all of these things. And I'll be giving a speech next month that'll showcase the speed, innovation, and generational acquisition reforms we are undertaking urgently. Likewise, the nature of the threats we face in our hemisphere and in deterring China is another speech for another day, coming soon. This speech today, as I drink my coffee, this speech today is about people, and it's about culture. The topic today is about the nature of ourselves. Because no plan, no program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department. If I've learned one core lesson in my 8 months in this job, it's that personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. The best way to take care of troops is to give them good leaders committed to the warfighting culture of the department. Not perfect leaders, good leaders. Competent, qualified, professional, agile, aggressive, innovative, risk-taking, apolitical, faithful to their oath and to the Constitution. Eugene Sledge, in his World War II memoir, wrote, quote, "War is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste. Combat leaves an indelible mark on those who are forced to endure it. The only redeeming factors are my comrades' incredible bravery and their devotion to each other." In combat, there are thousands of variables, as I learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, and as so many of you did in so many more places. Leaders can only control about 3 of them. You control how well you're trained, mostly how well you're equipped, and the last variable is how well you lead. After that, you're on your own. Our warfighters are entitled to be led by the best and most capable leaders. That is who we need you all to be. Even then, in combat, even if you do everything right, you may still lose people because the enemy always gets a vote. We have a sacred duty to ensure that our warriors are led by the most capable and qualified combat leaders. This is one thing you and I can control, and we owe it to the force to deliver it. For too long, we have simply not done that. The military has been forced by foolish and reckless politicians to focus on the wrong things. In many ways, this speech is about fixing decades of decay. Some of it obvious, some of it hidden. Or as the chairman has put it, we are clearing out the debris, removing the distractions, clearing the way for leaders to be leaders. You might say we're ending the war on warriors. I heard someone wrote a book about that. For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts. We've pretended that combat arms and non-combat arms are the same thing. We've weeded out so-called toxic leaders under the guise of double-blind psychology assessments, promoting risk-averse, go-along-to-get-along conformists instead. You name it, the department did it. Foolish and reckless political leaders set the wrong compass heading, and we lost our way. We became the woke department, but not anymore. Right now, I'm looking out at a sea of Americans who made a choice when they were young men and young women to do something most Americans will not, to serve something greater than yourselves, to fight for God and country, for freedom and the Constitution. You made a choice to serve when others did not, and I commend you. You are truly the best of America. But this does not mean, and this goes for all of us, that our path to this auditorium on this day was a straight line, or that the conditions of the formations we lead are where we want them to be. You love your country, and we love this uniform, which is why we must do better. We just have to be honest. We have to say with our mouths what we see with our eyes, to just tell it like it is in plain English, to point out the obvious things right in front of us. That's what leaders must do. We cannot go another day without directly addressing the plank in our own eye, without addressing the problems in our own commands and in our own formations. This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. I've made it my mission to uproot the obvious distractions that made us less capable and less lethal. That said, the War Department requires the next step. Underneath the woke garbage is a deeper problem, and a more important problem that we are fixing and fixing fast. Common sense is back at the White House, so making the necessary changes is actually pretty straightforward. President Trump expects it. And the litmus test for these changes is pretty simple. Would I want my eldest son, who is 15 years old, eventually joining the types of formations that we are currently wielding? If in any way the answer to that is no, or even yes, but, then we're doing something wrong. Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth of our nation. He is no more important than your son. All precious souls made in the image and likeness of God. Every parent deserves to know that their son or their daughter that joins our ranks is entering exactly the kind of unit that the Secretary of War would want his son to join. Think of it as the golden rule test. Jesus said, "Do unto others that which you would have done unto yourself." It's the ultimate simplifying test of truth. The new War Department golden rule is this: do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? In a unit where leaders were promoted for reasons other than merit, performance, and warfighting? The answer is not just no, it's hell no. This means at the War Department, first and foremost, we must restore a ruthless, dispassionate, and common sense leaders. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms, troops who are not fully proficient on their assigned weapons, platform, or task, or under a leader who was the first, but not the best. Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. Suggestions that get our sons and daughters killed. When it comes to combat arms units, and there are many different stripes across our joint force, the era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now. At every level, either you can meet the standard, either you can do the job, either you are disciplined, fit, and trained, or you are out. And that's why today, at my direction, and this is the first of 10 Department of War directives that are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, Guard, and Reserve. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join Special Forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans, but unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession. I sincerely appreciate the proactive efforts the secretaries have already taken in some of those areas, service secretaries. And these directives are intended to simply accelerate those efforts. On the topic of standards, allow me a few words to talk about toxic leaders. Upholding and demanding high standards is not toxic. Enforcing high standards, not toxic leadership. Leading warfighters toward the goals of high, gender-neutral, and uncompromising standards in order to forge a cohesive, formidable, and lethal Department of War is not toxic. It is our duty, consistent with our constitutional oath. Real toxic leadership is endangering subordinates with low standards. Real toxic leadership is promoting people based on immutable characteristics or quotas instead of based on merit. Real toxic leadership is promoting destructive ideologies that are an anathema to the Constitution and the laws of nature and nature's God, as Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence. The definition of toxic has been turned upside down, and we're correcting that. That's why today, at my direction, we're undertaking a full review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing, to empower leaders to enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. Of course, you can't do like nasty bullying and hazing. We're talking about words like bullying and hazing and toxic. They've been weaponized and bastardized inside our formations, undercutting commanders and NCOs. No more. Setting, achieving, and maintaining high standards is what you all do. And if that makes me toxic, then so be it. Second, today at our direction, we're ensuring that every service, every unit, every schoolhouse, and every form of professional military education conduct an immediate review of their standards. Now, we've done this in many places already, but today it goes across the entire Department of War. Any place where tried and true physical standards were altered, especially since 2015 when combat arms standards were changed to ensure females could qualify, must be returned to their original standard. Other standards have been manipulated to hit racial quotas as well, which is just as unacceptable. This too must end. Merit only. The president talks about it all the time, merit-based. Here are two basic frameworks I urge you to pursue in this process. Standards I call, my staff's heard all about them, the 1990 test and the E6 test. The 1990s test is simple. What were the military standards in 1990? And if they have changed, tell me why. Was it a necessary change based on the evolving landscape of combat? Or was the change due to a softening, weakening, or gender-based pursuit of other priorities? 1990s seems to be as good a place to start as any. And the E6 test. Ask yourself, does what you're doing make the leadership, accountability, and lethality efforts of an E6, or frankly an O3, does it make it easier or more complicated? Does the change empower staff sergeants, petty officers, and tech sergeants to get back to basics? The answer should be a resounding yes. The E6 test, or O3 test, clarifies a lot, and it clarifies quickly. Because war does not care if you're a man or a woman. Neither does the enemy. Nor does the weight of your rucksack, the size of an artillery round, or the body weight of a casualty on the battlefield who must be carried. This, and I want to be very clear about this, this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute.
Okay, just some updates right now, guys, really quickly. We'll get back to this in just a moment. I want to give you guys some breaking news updates. Right now we've got, and I'll just show you guys the page, the main page here. So this is all to do with Iran, too. There's a lot going on, guys, right now. So Iran, supposedly that last war that they had with Israel, their supposed commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy was killed, but he has been seen recently on TV. And the media assumed that he was martyred during the war, but his whereabouts were kept secret by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard for operational reasons. President Trump said, "I've signed an order to create a rapid reaction force that we can deploy anywhere in the U.S. to quell any unrest and disorder." So this is exactly what we were expecting, too, is a lot of unrest. I've been sensing here, and indications are kind of pointing in that direction that there's going to be a huge amount of unrest in the United States. This is what they're preparing for. Iranian high-ranking government delegation made an unannounced visit to Moscow. This was just a little bit ago. And let's see what the next one is here. Following the suspension. Hold on one second. Okay, I think there's like thunder outside or something. I thought I heard somebody knocking on the door, but it sounds like thunder. Thunder and lightning. It says, following the suspension of several arms deals with Israel, worth approximately $1.5 billion in total, Spain has barred U.S. military planes and ships from moving arms to Israel via Spanish bases, including the Rota and Moron bases. Moron bases? Moron bases. They have a moron base? Wow. It says, in the past 2 months, Spain has significantly escalated its actions against Israel by sanctioning Israeli officials, threatening to withdraw from international competitions and the events of Israel's participation in events that Israel participates in, and sending naval assets to protect the Sumud flotilla activists. So they are sending their navy out there. I heard about that the other day to try to protect the flotillas. That's Spain. And here by the way, we had a big earthquake. I believe it was in the Philippines, 7.0 from what they're saying. It might have been downgraded to a 6.8, but a large earthquake just happened. These are aerial refueling tankers that have entered Europe from the United States in the past 2 days are now on their way to the Middle East. Oh, boy. I wonder what's fixing to happen here. This just posted here. About a dozen U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotankers and other aerial refuelers were transferred from the U.S. mainland to bases in Europe over the past 48 hours, but now they're on their way to the Middle East. Is this in preparation for, round two? Is this a round two? I'm telling you, this meeting with the generals was signaling something that's going to happen. I'm just telling you guys, this is not idle talk here. This is war talk. Okay, these are preps for war. Did you see this? 100,000 federal workers have resigned this morning, marking the largest mass resignation in history. 100,000 federal workers resigned. This is the purge of the government. They are, I would say, maybe even akin to the Night of the Long Knives. I think it's just a consolidation of loyalists and those who are going to push forward the cause of preparations for war. President Trump warns that he will immediately fire top military leaders on the spot if they don't meet his approval. And what else do we have? Ukrainian suspect in the 2022 explosion that damaged the Nord Stream gas pipeline has been arrested in Poland. A Ukrainian suspect, huh? Okay, let's get back to what Pete Hegseth had to say here. Let's just go back to that. And Trump's going to start his long message. We did listen to the last part of it live, but I wanted to go through it and really kind of listen. If you want to hang out with me and do that, I'll continue to update you guys on updates that are coming through. There's a lot of breaking updates, so just stay tuned and I'll break in and talk on those if they happen to pop off here. I think we could be seeing something pretty significant today.
Absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death. As we all know, this is you versus an enemy hell-bent on killing you. To be an effective, lethal fighting force, you must trust that the warrior alongside you in battle is capable, truly physically capable of doing what is necessary under fire. You know this is the only standard you would want for your kids and for your grandkids. Apply the War Department Golden Rule,
I'm going to make one statement because really quickly, I'm looking at the comments and yeah, this is encouraging if you weren't on the precipice of war, and it sounds great to make us feel a little more confident as we enter into a war, but China and Russia have been preparing for war for many years with the U.S., unfortunately. And many believe that they've actually made inroads into every one of our institutions to thwart, undermine, and sabotage our readiness for said war when it arrives, which is looking like it's here now. Are we going to be able to fight a war if it were to pop off at this moment? I mean, we can threaten with nukes if we don't have the fighting force to actually get in there and actually do the real kinetic war having technique and, men of fighting caliber. But we're really just relying upon weapons, missiles, nukes, whatever. If it comes down to it, if there is an overwhelming force that's coming against our troops and or our country, do you not think we're just not going to just press buttons? I mean, it's really not about so much about whether or not you're fit. How fit do you need to be to press a button? Really, I guess mentally you need to be fit. But when you've got someone leading the cause, the charge here that may seem a little mentally unstable, and I don't know what mentally stable means. I mean, you could say that anybody can be an evil genius. I mean, look at people throughout history that dragged the whole world into war. They were obviously very smart and intelligent, but maybe intelligent like a fox. Really, the way you define intelligence and whether or not people are stable, it's really about, do they have a real motivation to, benefit humanity, whether it's your enemies or whether to stay out of war, to really be a true peaceful person or a country that is peaceful. Is that something that really is, that would define you as a nation, right? But it sounds to me like we're being threatened, and obviously we're amongst many nations that are threatening. But we are, I believe, have been an appeasing nation for so long, and now we're trying to get back up to try to fight. And I don't know if it's too little, too late. I just think we're going to be depending more upon our weaponry and our technology. It's not so much, human resources and their fitness. I know that's just a morale kind of booster. He's basically trying to boost morale. That's what's happening right now, because we're about to go to war. And are we ready for war? Some of you out there may be vets, and that's great. This is a good sense of feel for what we need and what has been lacking. But there's been a reason for why that's been lacking. And, if I really, really, really think about this, and if you really understand the left-right paradigm, the swinging to the left so far has to come back to the right, and it's all been planned, and it's all by design, that whole left-right swing. They swing you to the right so that they can take you to war when they want you to go to war. And I say I'm talking about the real powers that control everything that goes on politically and militarily in this nation. It's not like, all of a sudden the left took over and we just didn't have anything to say or do about it. We just couldn't. But now that it's swung so far to the left, now we got to swing really far to the right to try to balance everything out. Well, that's just, to me, it's more like an earthquake. The destructive nature of an earthquake is that the shaking takes place so hard that it just, when you've got that big shake, that's when you have things fall, crash, burn, everything destroyed. Okay, this is unstable. This is unsustaining instability. That's what we're watching happen right now. There's no being able to balance yourself out here when you've got all this shaking going on, and it's going to get worse. And this is what we call tribulation. And you got a lot of Christians out there, and now this is the beginning of the 7 years. I think maybe Trump could be the Antichrist. Now everybody's like all of a sudden talking about Trump being the Antichrist, right? Everybody's now talking about it. All Christian, even CBN, the big Christian broadcasting network, put up some big video that is implying that this looks like part of the biblical prophecy, right? Well, we've been telling you that for a long time. But so we're steeped in the tribulation. We're not just entering into it. We're already deep into it. We're deep into the tribulation. And if you haven't been aware of it for this long and now you're just waking up to it, well, you're not ready for what's about to hit the fan. You're not spiritually ready or mentally ready or emotionally ready. And you need to, it's kind of like the military right now. Are they ready for a war? No, they've been fumbling along and no leadership for quite some time. But that was all done by design. That was all done by design. That wasn't just by happen chance. And Trump isn't just here now to fix it. He's here to get you to go along with what he's going to do. That's what it's all about. Fear-based compliance. You are scared to death that we're not ready for a conflict, and we're not. And I don't know if the whole world, I don't even know if the world is really ready for the Third World War anyway. I don't think anybody's ready. As the Bible says, the whole world will be shaken. The whole world is going to be in perplexity, it says. The nations are in perplexity. In the heavens, in the signs, in the sun, and the moon, and the stars, on the earth, distress of nations with perplexity. And they're recognizing that all these events are unfolding. So it's not like Russia's bigger and stronger and more well-equipped to destroy us. I mean, we're going to destroy, the potential to destroy the whole planet looms. And this is why there's perplexity. And this is why they're looking for a man of peace. This is why they're looking for someone that's going to save them. Everybody's looking for savior. Everybody's looking for someone that's going to bring peace. And why is Trump rising to that call, even though he's always talking about how great he is all the time, making great boasts? You know, I mean, literally, people can't see it because they don't know prophecy. They don't know the specifics of prophecy. They can't figure out what's really happening. They don't understand what true moral character is, according to what Jesus said would be a true shepherd or a true overseer, somebody that's truly watching over a nation that would reflect a nature that God would bless, right? But what is the other nature that we have to be really aware of and wary of? The Bible really clearly defines that about that end-time leader and what he would do. Yeah, there's corruption in all kinds of countries and leaders, obviously. But there's a special kind of demonic corruption that possesses a certain individual in the last days. And it likens it unto a Judas. Okay, he's a betrayer. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth. You never know what he's going to do. Obviously, he's there to do that as a Trojan horse to bring about a betrayal. And if you've really been listening to what I've been saying, you remember I called it the betrayal of Israel before it happened. Before it happened. How many of you guys remember when I did that? When I shared that with you guys? I'm just kind of giving you this so you understand what I'm trying to say here and why I'm saying this. And then after the betrayal of Israel was headlines, after about 2 days of me, right before I warned, like 2 or 3 days before, and it was nowhere in the news. People were like, you don't know what you're talking about. And people were like, what are you talking about, betrayal of Israel? It wasn't anywhere in the news. And then all of a sudden it hit the news. And then I was like, okay, now I got your attention. Now he's going to betray MAGA. And then the Jeffrey Epstein files popped out. And then he told his whole base to go, you know, remember how he spoke to the base and how the base was so offended? MAGA was like, what? We supported you. We voted you in, and you're talking to us like that? You know, people were just livid. He betrayed MAGA just like that. Like I had warned right before, a few days before that happened, before it became headlines. And then I said, oh, he's going to make up. It's kind of like a snake that's just slowly devouring its prey, you know, like just a little bit at a time, just slowly devouring everything. Same thing with Israel, slowly devouring Israel. You know, I've seen some posts here now from some of these top Israeli people that got big channels. They're very, they don't know what to think now because they're not getting what they wanted. They're not getting the West Bank. And Amir, for all you guys who know Behold Israel, Amir, he was saying it's all fake news. Oh, that's all fake news. Oh, but now he's not saying that. You know why? Because it's actually happening. And we told everybody, we called out Amir, and we said, he just said this was all fake news, and what I just said is legit, and it's going to happen. You're going to see it. And sure enough, they didn't get Judea and Samaria. The Israelis did not get this deal, what they thought they were going to get from Trump. And they're not getting Gaza either. That's not even theirs. They're losing that too. but they're getting everything else. So he tried to put a happy face on it, but he came back and he made another statement, Amir, and he's shaken. He is worried. He is thinking that Trump is going to betray them again. See what I'm saying? Now here comes the second round. The second round. And same thing's going to happen to MAGA. You're all thinking this is all going your way again because maybe we just misunderstood. Maybe we just didn't understand. Maybe we didn't get it. No, you'll get it. It'll happen again and again and again until you're completely in his belly. And I'm saying not Trump's belly, but you know what I mean. The belly of the beast. That's where everybody's going to be. If you don't wake up and you don't get right with Jesus and you don't get your heart in line with his will, you're going to be finding yourselves in the belly of the beast. How many of you guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, let's continue.
1990 test and the E6 test, and it's really hard to go wrong. Third, we are attacking and ending the walking on eggshells and zero defect command culture. A risk-averse culture means officers execute not to lose instead of to win. A risk-averse culture means NCOs are not empowered to enforce standards. Commanders and NCOs don't take necessary risks or make tough adjustments for fear of rocking the boat or making mistakes. A blemish-free record is what peacetime leaders covet the most, which is the worst of all incentives. We, as senior leaders, need to end the poisonous culture of risk aversion and empower our NCOs at all levels to enforce standards. Truth be told, for the most part, we don't need new standards. We just need to reestablish a culture where enforcing standards is possible. And that's why today, at my direction, I'm issuing new policies that will overhaul the IG, EO, and MEO processes. I call it the No More Walking on Eggshells policy. We are liberating commanders and NCOs. We are liberating you. We are overhauling an inspector general process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. We're doing the same with the equal opportunity and military equal opportunity policies, the EO and MEO at our department. No more frivolous complaints. No more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells. Of course, being a racist has been illegal in our formation since 1948. The same goes for sexual harassment. Both are wrong and illegal. Those kinds of infractions will be ruthlessly enforced. But telling someone to shave or get a haircut or to get in shape or to fix their uniform or to show up on time or to work hard, that's exactly the kind of discrimination we want. We are not civilians. You are not civilians. You are set apart for a distinct purpose. So we as a department need to stop acting and thinking like civilians and get back to basics and put the power back in the hands of commanders and NCOs. Commanders and NCOs who make life and death decisions. Commanders and NCOs who enforce standards and ensure readiness. Commanders and NCOs who in this War Department have to look in the mirror and they have to pass the golden rule test. My kids, your kids, America's sons and daughters. So I urge you all here today and those watching, take this guidance and run with it. The core of this speech is the 10 directives we're announcing today. They were written for you, for Army leadership, for Navy leadership, for Marine Corps leadership, for Air Force leadership, Space Force leadership. These directives are designed to take the monkey off your back and put you, the leadership, back in the driver's seat. Move out with urgency because we have your back. I have your back. And the Commander-in-Chief has your back. And when we give you this guidance, we know mistakes will be made. It's the nature of leadership. But you should not pay for earnest mistakes for your entire career. And that's why today, at my direction, We're making changes to the retention of adverse information on personnel records that will allow leaders with forgivable, earnest, or minor infractions to not be encumbered by those infractions in perpetuity. People make honest mistakes, and our mistakes should not define an entire career. Otherwise, we only try not to make mistakes, and that's not the business we're in. We need risk takers and aggressive leaders, and a culture that supports you. Fourth, at the War Department, promotions across the Joint Force will be based on one thing: merit. Colorblind, gender-neutral, merit-based. The entire promotion process, including evaluations of warfighting capabilities, is being thoroughly re-examined. We've already done a lot in this area, but more changes are coming soon. We'll promote top-performing officers and NCOs faster and get rid of poor performers more quickly. Evaluations, education, and field exercises will become real evaluations, not box checks, for every one of us at every level. These same reforms happened before World War II as well. General George Marshall and Secretary of War Henry Stimson did the same thing. And we won a world war because of it. As it happens, when he started the job, Chairman Kane gave me a frame and a photo to hang in my office. A matching frame and photo hangs in his. It's a photo of Marshall and Stimson preparing for World War II. Those two leaders famously kept the door open between their offices for the entirety of the war. They worked together, civilian and uniform, every single day. Chairman Kane and I do the same. There is no daylight between us. Our doors are always open. Our job together is to ensure our military is led by the very best, ready to answer the nation's call. Fifth, as you have seen, and the media has obsessed over, I have fired a number of senior officers since taking over. The previous chairman, other members of the Joint Chiefs, combatant commanders, and other commanders. The rationale for me has been straightforward. It's nearly impossible to change a culture with the same people who helped create or even benefited from that culture, even if that culture was created by a previous president and previous secretary. My approach has been simple. When in doubt, assess the situation, follow your gut, and if it's the best for the military, make a change. We all serve at the pleasure of the president every single day. But in many ways, it's not their fault. It's not your fault. As foolish and reckless as the woke department was, those officers were following elected political leadership. An entire generation of generals and admirals were told that they must parrot the insane fallacy that, quote, our diversity is our strength. Of course, we know our unity is our strength. They had to put out dizzying DEI and LGBTQI+ statements. They were told females and males are the same thing, or that males who think they're females are totally normal. They were told that we need a green fleet and electric tanks. They were told to kick out Americans who refuse an emergency vaccine. They followed civilian policies set by foolish and reckless political leaders. Our job, my job, has been to determine which leaders simply did what they must to answer the prerogatives of civilian leadership, and which leaders are truly invested in the woke department, and therefore incapable of embracing the War Department and executing new lawful orders. That's it. It's that simple. So for the past 8 months, we've gotten a good look under the hood of our officer corps. We've done our best to thoroughly assess the human terrain. We've had to make trade-offs and some difficult decisions. It's more of an art than a science. We have been and will continue to be judicious, but also expeditious. The new compass heading is clear. Out with the Shirellis, the Mackenzies, and the Millies, and in with the Stockdales, the Schwarzkopfs, and the Pattons. More leadership changes will be made, of that I'm certain. Not because we want to, but because we must. Once again, this is life and death. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. Personnel is policy. But I look out at this group, and I see great Americans. Leaders who have given decades to our great republic, at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be. We need you locked in on the M, not the D, the E, or the I, not the DEI or the DIE of dime. By that I mean the M, military, of the instruments of national power. We have entire departments across the government dedicated to diplomatic, informational, and economic lines of effort. We do the M. Nobody else does. And our GoFos need to master it in every domain and every scenario. No more distractions, no more political ideologies, no more debris. Now, of course, we're going to disagree at times. We would not be Americans if we didn't. Being a leader in a large organization like ours means having frank conversations and differences of opinion. You will win some arguments, and you will lose some arguments. But when civilian leaders issue lawful orders, we execute. We are professionals in the profession of arms. Our entire constitutional system is predicated upon this understanding. Now, it seems like a small thing, but it's not. This includes as well the behavior of our troops online. To that end, I want to thank and recognize the services for their new proactive social media policies. Use them. Anonymous, online, or keyboard complaining is not worthy of a warrior. It's cowardice masquerading as conscience. Anonymous, unit-level social media pages that trash commanders, demoralize troops, and undermine unit cohesion must not be tolerated. Again, O3s, E6s. Sixth, we must train and we must maintain. Any moment that we are not training on our mission or maintaining our equipment is a moment we are less prepared for preventing or winning the next war. That is why today, at my direction, we are drastically reducing the ridiculous amount of mandatory training that individuals and units must execute. We've already ended the most egregious. Now we're giving you back real time. Less PowerPoint briefings and fewer online courses, more time in the motor pool, and more time on the range. Our job is to make sure you have the money, equipment, weapons, and parts to train and maintain, and then you take it from there. You all know this because it's common sense. The tougher and the higher the standards in our units, the higher the retention rates in those units. Warriors want to be challenged. Troops want to be tested. When you don't train and you don't maintain, you demoralize. And that's when our best people decide to take their talents to the civilian world. The leaders who created the woke department have already driven out too many hard chargers. We reverse that trend right now. There is no world in which high-intensity war exists without pain, agony, and human tragedy. We are in a dangerous line of work. You are in a dangerous line of work. We may lose good people. But let no warrior cry out from the grave, "If only I had been properly trained." We will not lose warfighters because we failed to train or equip them or resource them. Shame on us if we do. Train like your warriors' lives depend on it, because they do. To that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be: scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits. ensuring that future warfighters are forged. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits, to make them the warriors they need to be. Back to basics at basic as well. Of course, and you know this, basic training is not where mission readiness should end. The nature of the evolving threat environment demands that everyone in every job must be ready to join the fight if needed. A core credo of the Marine Corps is every Marine a rifleman. It means that everyone, regardless of MOS, is proficient enough to engage an enemy threat at sea, in the air, or in a so-called rear area. We need to ensure that every member of our uniformed military maintains baseline proficiency in basic combat skills, especially because the next war, like the last, will likely not have a rear area. Finally, as President Trump rightly pointed out when he changed the department name, the United States has not won a major theater war since the name was changed to the Department of Defense in 1947. One conflict stands out in stark contrast: the Gulf War. Why? Well, there's a number of reasons, but it was a limited mission with overwhelming force and a clear end state. But why did we execute and win the Gulf War the way we did in 1991? There's two overwhelming reasons. One was President Ronald Reagan's military buildup gave an overwhelming advantage. And two, military and Pentagon leadership had previous formative battlefield experiences. The men who led this department during the Gulf War were mostly combat veterans of the Vietnam War. They said never again to mission creep or nebulous end states. The same holds true today. Our civilian and military leadership is chock full of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who say never again to nation building and nebulous end states. This clear-eyed view, all the way in the White House, combined with President Trump's military buildup, postures us for future victories if, and we will, and when we embrace the War Department. And we must. We are preparing every day. We have to be prepared for war, not for defense. We're training warriors, not defenders. We fight wars to win, not to defend. Defense is something you do all the time. It's inherently reactionary and can lead to overuse, overreach, and mission creep. War is something you do sparingly, on our own terms, and with clear aims. We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters. That's all I ever wanted as a platoon leader. And it's all my E6 squad leaders ever wanted, back to that E6 rule. We let our leaders fight their formations, and then we have their back. It's very simple, yet incredibly powerful. A few months ago, I was at the White House when President Trump announced his Liberation Day for America's trade policy. It was a landmark day. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. We are not an army of one. We are a joint force of millions of selfless Americans. We are warriors. We are purpose-built, not for fair weather, blue skies, or calm seas. We were built to load up in the back of helicopters, 5 tons, or Zodiacs, in the dead of night, in fair weather or foul, to go to dangerous places, to find those who would do our nation harm, and deliver justice on behalf of the American people in close and brutal combat if necessary. You are different. We fight not because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us. You see, the Ivy League faculty lounges will never understand us, and that's okay, because they could never do what you do. The media will mischaracterize us, and that's okay, because deep down they know the reason they can do what they do is you. In this profession, you feel comfortable inside the violence so that our citizens can live peacefully. Lethality is our calling card, and victory our only acceptable end state. In closing, a few weeks ago, at our monthly Pentagon Christian prayer service, I recited a commander's prayer. It's a simple yet meaningful prayer for wisdom for commanders and leaders. I encourage you to look it up if you've never seen it. But the prayer, it ends like this. And most of all, Lord, please keep my soldiers safe. Lead them, guide them, protect them, watch over them. And as you gave all of yourself for me, help me give all of myself for them. And amen. I have prayed this prayer many times since I've had the privilege of being your secretary. And I will continue to pray this prayer for each of you as you command and lead our nation's finest. Go forth and do good things, hard things. President Trump has your back, and so do I. And you'll hear from him shortly. Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Room, attention.
Okay, so that was Hegseth, and now, wow, that's pretty crazy. Hey, that's the military. That's I'm not saying anything about anything against what Hegseth is saying. Obviously, that's what this is all about. Okay, so let's go back to Trump. Trump came in here. Let's see, make sure I got Trump coming in here. They're preparing for war. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're getting us all ready for war. Got to get the morale up, because the morale has been down. Last minute kind of reversal gets everybody set up. All right, let's see if we got this right here. All right, let's go. This is where he introduces Trump.
Of ensuring that our warfighters have everything they need. His compass is clear. He's easy to follow because he has our back. I was thinking backstage, the man who was the commander-in-chief when the War Department was created was George Washington. The man who was president when the War Department was reestablished is President Trump. And when he found out about this gathering of senior leaders, he said, I would be honored to come in order to address and thank the incredible Americans who defend our nation. He has a heart full of gratitude and love for what you do, and we get a chance to see it every day. And I'm honored that this morning you all firsthand get to see it as well. So ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the 45th and 47th President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Oh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room. I said, we got to loosen these guys up a little bit. So you just have a good time. But I want to thank Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, General Raisin Kane for a reason, they call him that. When I heard his name, I said, you're the guy I'm looking for. The Joint Chiefs of Staff and so many others in this room who together represent the greatest and most elite fighting force in the history of the world, the United States military. We're very proud of our military. I rebuilt the military during my first term. It's one of the greatest achievements. We had the greatest economy in history, and I built the military. Those are the two things I say more than anything else. And I also kept us safe at the borders. We had very good borders. We didn't have people coming in from jails and prisons and everything like took place over the last 4 years. I'll never forget what happened to this country over the last 4 years with the incompetence. There could be no higher honor than to serve as your commander-in-chief. It is a great honor. I look at you, just incredible people. Central casting, I might add. To each and every one of you, I thank you for your unwavering devotion to the armed forces and to the country that we've all sworn a sacred oath to defend. We all have that oath, every one of us. I'm thrilled to be here this morning to address the senior leadership of what is once again known around the world as the Department of War. I know Pete spoke about it. He gave a great speech, I thought. Great speech. I don't want him to get so good. I hate that. You know? No, I hate it. I almost fired him. I said, you can't, I don't want to go on after that. No, he gave a great speech, but he talked about Department of War. We were sitting there. I said, didn't it used to be called the Department of War? And he goes, yes, sir. They changed it like in the early 50s. So we won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything in between and everything before that. We only won. And then we went, in a way, woke. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. And we changed it to defense instead of war. And I said, what do you think? How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? And Pete loved it immediately. Some people thought about it. You know, they gave it a little thought. But in the end, we did it. And I have to be honest, it's so popular. I thought it would be met with fury on the left. But they're sort of giving up, I must be honest with you. They've had it. They've had it with Trump. They've been after me for so many years now. Here we are. Here we are. Come to the White House anytime you'd like. No, they've given up. They're bad, a lot of bad people. But all over, it's been so popular. It's been very popular. I really thought that we were going to have to sort of fight it through. There's been no fight. There's been no fight. Like what I called the Gulf of America, the Gulf of America, because to me it was always the Gulf of America. I could never understand. We have 92% of the frontage. And for years, actually 350 years, they were there before us. It was called the Gulf of Mexico. I just had this idea. I'm looking at a map. I'm saying, we have most of the frontage. Why is it Gulf of Mexico? Why isn't it the Gulf of America? And I made the change, and it went smoothly. I mean, we had a couple of fake news outlets that refused to make the change. And then one of them, AP, took us to court, and we won. And the judge, who was a somewhat liberal judge, said, the name is the Gulf of America, because AP refused to call it the Gulf of America. They wrote, they're not a good outfit, by the way. They call it the Gulf of Mexico. I said, no, the Gulf of America is the name. And the judge actually said that, in fact, you can't even go into the room because what you're doing is not appropriate. The name is the Gulf of America. Google Maps changed the name. Everybody did, but AP wouldn't. And then we won in court. How about that? Isn't that so cool? The Secretary Hegseth beautifully described the name change reflects far more than the shift in branding. It's really a historic reassertion of our purpose and our identity and our pride. That's when we go with the word war. And you know, we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there. And, you know, sometimes you have to do it. I have settled so many wars since we're here almost 9 months, and I've settled 7. And yesterday we might have settled the biggest of them all, although I don't know. Pakistan, India was very big. Both nuclear powers, I settled that. But yesterday could be the settlement in the Middle East. That hasn't happened for 3,000 years. I said, how long have you been fighting? 3,000 years, sir. That's a long time. But we got it, I think, settled. We'll see. Hamas has to agree. And if they don't, it's going to be very tough on them. But it is what it is. But all of the Arab nations, Muslim nations have agreed. Israel has agreed. It's an amazing thing. It just came together. War is very strange, you know. You never know what's going to happen with war. The easiest one of them all is Putin. I said, number one, it's a war that would have never happened if I were president, if the election weren't rigged. And if I were president, that war would have never happened. Not even a little chance. And it didn't happen for 4 years. But I knew Putin very well, and I thought that would be easy because I know him so well. Well, that one turned out to be the hardest of them all. We had some that were not settlable, and they all got settled. So if this works out, that we did yesterday with the Middle East, then that's more than a war. That's lots of wars. That's all combined. That's a lot of wars. Many of you were over there in many different capacities in many different countries. That's a big part of the earth. But if that works out, it would be 8+. I could give myself 2 or 3 for that one. And then we just have the one to settle, and we have to settle it up with President Putin. And Zelensky, got to get them together and get it done. But the only way we can do that is through strength. I mean, if we were weak, they wouldn't even take my phone call. But we have extreme strength. We had the horror show in Afghanistan, which is really the reason I think that Putin went in. He saw that horror show by Biden and his team of incompetent people. And that showed, I think it gave him a path in. I wasn't there any longer. I watched that, and it was so horrible. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And now we're back. And that's it. We're not going to have any of that crap happen, I can tell you. That was terrible, so terrible. Together we're reawakening the warrior spirit, and this is a spirit that won and built this nation, and from the cavalry that tamed the Great Plains to the ferocious, unyielding power of Patton Bradley and the great General Douglas MacArthur. These are all great men. In this effort, we're a team, and so my message to you is very simple. I am with you, I support you, and as president, I have your backs 100%. You'll never see me even waver a little bit. It's the way it is. And that includes our great police officers and firemen and all of these people that are doing so well. Together over the next few years, we're going to make our military stronger, tougher, faster, fiercer, and more powerful than it has ever been before. I rebuilt our nuclear, as you probably know, but we'll upgrade that also and just hope we never have to use it. We have to hope we never have to use it, because the power of that is so incredible. I see things I don't think they'd show it to you. I really wouldn't want them to show it to you. But when you see the result of what's left, you never want to use that. Never, never, ever. We were a little bit threatened by Russia recently, and I sent a submarine, nuclear submarine, the most lethal weapon ever made. Number one, you can't detect it. There's no way. We're 25 years ahead of Russia and China in submarines. Russia's actually second in submarines. China's third, but they're coming up. They're coming up. They're way lower in nuclear. They're coming up. They're way lower in nuclear too, but in 5 years they'll be equal. They're coming up. And you don't have to be that good with it. That works for. I mentioned the word nuclear. I moved a submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N word. There are 2 N words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, but it's something we don't ever want to even have to think about. But when somebody mentions it, that submarine started immediately thereafter. And it's just lurking, but I'm sure we're not going to have to use it. But it's an amazing, it's undetectable, totally. Ours is, theirs isn't. Theirs are totally detectable. We can detect them easily. We go right to the spot. But we have genius apparatus that doesn't allow detection. It doesn't allow detection at all by anybody above water or below water. It's incredible. We're way ahead of everybody in that and other things. As a result of the exciting renewal of the spirit of our armed forces, and that's what it is. It's really reaching that spirit, unprecedented heights. Over the past 8 months, new enlistments, I'm so proud of this, have surged to record highs, the highest we've ever had. And we used to have recruiting shortages. If you remember, about a year and a half ago, I was at the beginning stage of a campaign, and things came out that you couldn't get people to join the armed forces. And by the way, the police also. Fire department, I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up in ladders, and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over. It's over. They don't even have to inspect you when you hit the ground. And you have people shooting bullets at them in some of these inner cities. We're not going to let that happen. So I always mention the firemen because that's actually a big problem we have. They are unbelievable. Like you, they're unbelievable people. For the first time on record in 2025, the Navy, Air Force, and Space Force all met or surpassed their recruiting goals 3 months early. That never happened before. And the Army did even better. Congratulations, Army. They met everything. And these were the highest standards because we're making it larger. So these were much higher standards than you had 4 years ago, 3 years ago, during the sleepy Joe Biden era. And the Army did it 4 months early. And you remember, a year and a half ago, they said the big stories that we're way behind with the Army, Air Force, the Navy, the Marines. We're way behind, Coast Guard. And even Space Force. I love Space Force because that was my creation. You know, when you create something, I love it. And the people we put in there were good. I got that right. We put in great people initially, and we've really dominated. We really dominate in that sphere now. We're way behind China and Russia, and now we dominate. Space Force turned out to be a very important thing. I said from the beginning, you know, when Biden came into office, he wanted to terminate it. He said, and this thing called Space Force, so we could get rid of that. And he got hammered by the people in this room for even suggesting it, because it's very important, one of the most important. And as time goes by, it'll get more and more important. But we're now at 106% of our recruiting targets for the year, and that's the best in far more than a generation. And for the Marines, morale is so strong that the Marine Corps will meet its 2026 retention targets before the end of October, which never happens. And that's the earliest it's ever happened in the history of our country. And it makes you feel good, you know. I felt guilty. I'd go make a speech in front of never people like you. You are the leaders. But people, soldiers. And I felt embarrassed because there'd be stories about, you know, we couldn't fill up our Army, Navy, Air Force. We couldn't fill them up. And it was headlines. It was during Biden's 4 years. The auto pen, I call him the auto pen. It's, how would you like to have your thing signed by an auto pen? You know, when I have a general, and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, the gorgeous paper, I said, throw a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign a piece of garbage. I said, this man's going to be a general, right? Yeah. I don't want to use this. I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing when you talk about the position, and they're beautiful. But how would you like to have that where some kid sitting in the back office is having it signed with an auto pen? I thought about it, and I thought about you people first, admirals, generals. I said, somebody works his whole life. He gets into maybe the academies or wherever, but however you got there, and you go through years of work, and now you become an admiral or a general or whatever. And when you do, the President of the United States signs your commission, as you know, and that commission is beautifully displayed. And I sign it. Actually, I love my signature. I really do. Everyone loves my signature. But I signed it very proudly, and I always think to myself, how can you have an auto pen sign this? It's just so disrespectful. To me, it's just totally disrespectful. And it turned out that almost everything he did was signed by auto pen, except for when he gave his son, Hunter, pardon. He signed that one. And that's actually the worst signature I've ever seen. That was the bad. The auto pen looks much better. But as leaders, our commitment to every patriot who put on the uniform is to ensure that American military remains the most lethal and dominant on the planet, not merely for a few years, but for the decades, be so strong that no nation will dare challenge us, so powerful that no enemy will dare threaten us, and so capable that no adversary can even think about beating us. And we've had it recently. I had India and Pakistan were going at it, and I called them both. And in this case, I used trade. I'm not going to trade with you. You start two nuclear nations, big nuclear. And no, you cannot do that. I said, yes, I can. You go into this freaking war that I'm hearing about. You know, actually, they just shot down 7 planes. 7 planes, it was starting. There's a lot of bad blood. And I said, you do this, there's not going to be any trade. And I stopped the war. It was raging for 4 days, but that was just the beginning. And we stopped it. It was a great thing. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan was here, along with the Field Marshal, who's a very important guy in Pakistan, and he was here 3 days ago. And I didn't even realize it as beautiful as he said it, but he said that to a group of people that were with us, 2 generals, but a group, he said, this man saved millions of lives because he saved the war from going on, and that war was going to get very bad, very, very bad. President Trump saved millions and millions of lives. That was a bad war. And I was very honored. I loved the way he said it. Susie Wiles was there. She said that was the most beautiful thing. But we saved a lot of them. Saved a lot of them. Even in Africa, we saved the Congo with Rwanda. They've been fighting for 31 years, 10 million people dead. I got that one done. And very proud of it. So if this works out, we'll have 8 in 8 months. That's pretty good. Nobody's ever done that. Will you get the Nobel Prize? Absolutely not. They'll give it to some guy that didn't do a damn thing. They'll give it to a guy that wrote a book about the mind of Donald Trump and what it took to solve the wars. And he'll get the Nobel Prize will go to a writer. No, but well, let's see what happens. But it's be a big insult to our country. I will tell you that. I don't want it. I want the country to get it. It should get it because there's never been anything like it. Think of it. So if this happens, I think it will. I don't say that lightly because I know more about deals than anybody. This is what my whole life was based on. And they can change, and this can certainly change. But we have just about everybody. We have one signature that we need, and that signature will pay in hell if they don't sign. I hope they sign for their own good and we create something really great. But to have done 8 of them is just like such an honor. And then we have Putin and Zelensky, the easiest one of them all. I said, that one I'll get done. I thought that was going to be first. The others were much harder, some of them. Azerbaijan was This was going on for 36 years. They said, it's not solvable, so you don't do it. I said, I will do it. I will do it. And I got on the phone with the two countries. They were great. They were great. I knew immediately. I knew as soon as I started talking to them, we're going to solve that war. We did. Now they're so happy. Now they're friends. One said he's been president for 32 years, 22 years. He said, for 22 years, I did nothing but kill his people. They were in the room together at the Oval Office. And they started off spread like this. I have the beautiful Resolute desk. And one was here, and one was here. You couldn't get further away. That's the furthest I've ever seen two people in front of me. And as the hour went by, they got closer, closer, closer. And at the end of the hour, we had it done. And they hugged and hugged and hugged. And I said, that's so nice, and you're going to remain friends. And I spoke to them, one of them the other day. He said, no, he's now my friend. But for 22 years, he's been the head of Azerbaijan for 22 years. And the other guy, great guy too, 7. And that war, that was a war that was not solvable. He said for 7 years. The other one said for 22 years. All I did was kill his people. That's all I've done. I said, well, we're going to put a stop to that. So we solved that. So it's a great thing. It's a great feeling. You're saving Kosovo and Serbia. You're saving so many lives doing this if you can do it. But our people deserve nothing less than the very best, and we're never going to let them down. And if we can solve wars instead of you having to fight wars, wouldn't that be wonderful, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's why one of the first executive orders I signed upon taking office was to restore the principle of merit. That's the most important word, other than the word tariff. I love tariffs. Most beautiful word. But I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I said tariff is my favorite word. I love the word tariff. We're becoming rich as hell. We have a big case in front of the Supreme Court, but I can't imagine, because this is what other nations have done to us. And we have, great legal grounds, but you still have a case. It would be very bad if something happened. But I said, my favorite word in the English dictionary is the word tariff. And people thought that was strange. And the fake news came over, and they really hit me hard on it. They said, what about love? What about religion? What about God? What about wife, family? I got killed when I said tariff is my favorite word. So I changed it. It's now my 5th favorite word. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But they hit me hard. But it is. When you look at, we've taken in trillions of dollars. We're rich again. And there'll never be, when we finish this out, there'll never be any wealth like what we have. Other countries were taking advantage of us for years and years. You know that better than anybody. And now we're treating them fairly. But the money coming in is, we've never seen anything like it. The other day they had $31 billion that they found, $31 billion. So we found $31 billion, and we're not sure from where it came. A gentleman came in, a financial guy. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, we don't know where it came. I said, check the tariff shelf. No, sir, the tariffs haven't started in that sector yet. I said, yes, they have. They started 7 weeks ago. Check it. Comes back 20 minutes later. Sir, you're right. It came from tariffs. $31 billion. That's enough to buy a lot of battleships, Admiral, to use an old term. I think we should maybe start thinking about battleships, by the way. We have a Secretary of the Navy. He came to me because I look at the Iowa out in California, and I look at different ships and the old pictures. I used to watch Victory at Sea. I love Victory at Sea. Look at these admirals. It's got to be your all-time in black and white. And I look at those ships. They came with the destroyers alongside of them, and man, nothing was going to stop. They were 20 deep, and they were in a straight line, and there was nothing going to stop them. And we actually talk about, those ships. Some people would say, no, that's old technology. I don't know. I don't think it's old technology when you look at those guns. But it's something we're actually considering, the concept of battleship. Nice 6-inch sides, solid steel, not aluminum that melts if it looks at a missile coming at it. Starts melting as the missile's about 2 miles away. Now, those ships, they don't make them that way anymore, but you look at it, and your secretary likes it, and I'm sort of open to it. And bullets are a lot less expensive than missiles. A lot of reasons. I should take a vote, but I'm afraid to take that vote because I may get voted out on that one. But I tell you, it's something we're seriously considering. There were powers. There were big powers. They were just about as mean and scary as you could be. And so we're looking at that. One of the biggest cases that we won was the decision of the United States Supreme Court to allow us to proceed on the word merit. So those two words are right up there. So this is, I would say, the opposite if you ask for a definition, the opposite of political correctness. We went through political correct where you had to have people that were totally unfit to be doing what you're doing for many reasons. I won't get into them. But for many reasons, they were unfit. Now, it's all based on merit. That was such an unbelievable decision. I didn't expect we were going to win that one. We went in. We said we need it. We went in for colleges, where kids with a C average are getting into the best colleges, and the kids with A averages won't get in. And kids with the highest boards and the highest marks or the best marks couldn't get into the best schools. And people that had not good boards and not very good marks. I mean, okay.
All right, so that's enough. He just goes on and on and on. I think the majority of what was most important that was noted from his rambling on and on, which made me feel like I wanted to fall asleep, was that he's got nuclear subs off the coast of Russia, poised and ready, can't be detected. And supposedly our subs, or their subs can be. So, and everything that we have is much better, right? All our technologies are way in advance of all the other countries, and we're just going to go back to a real war footing, an aggressive stance, because that's what's going to bring peace. That's what's going to bring peace. So, peace through strength, right? We're not actually in a kinetic war like Russia is at this moment, but I guess we're going to get a big dose of experience here real soon. Are we going to have boots on the ground in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe? Yes, I think we are. In South America? How many fronts? How many fronts are we going to have? I know that China is staging right now. From what I understand, they're preparing a whole slew of civilian vessels as landing under the guise of civilian vessels, preparing for an invasion, an amphibious invasion, if you will. But they're using civilian vessels, is what they're saying. And this is all in preparation the last 48 hours, right? So I've been hearing about this as well. So is this like a coordinated event that's going to be global? I mean, are we prepared? Is this why we're having these meetings with all of our generals in one shot location? I mean, is this optics for enemies to be fearful of us? I mean, we're posting this for public consumption so that they can look at it and say, "Wow, yeah, America formidable. Maybe we don't want to fight with them." I don't think that's what that's what other countries are, Russia or China are thinking. I think they're thinking, wow, they must be weak because they're having to say, have you ever heard that saying? You ever heard that saying, be strong when you're weak, act strong, show off strength when you're weak, and when you're weak, or I'm sorry, if you're strong, act weak. And if you're weak, show off strength. You ever heard that? So what are we trying to show off right now? Are we trying to show off? Are we acting weak? Because people that are it goes back to the same idea of the quiet one is the one that you got to be careful with. The one that's quietest, the one that's in the shadows. Those are the ones that you need to be aware of. Not the ones that are making all the boasts and are, bravado and always talking big. Those are not the ones. I would be much more concerned about a Putin than I would about a Trump. A Trump could be a lot of, unpredictable, yeah, but also could be miscalculating as well. Now, if he is the person that can't be made war with, Scripture does talk about this particular individual that who can make war with if this is truly the possessed individual that is demonically charged to take over the planet, then yeah, we're in that moment where we have a military genius, right? That's going to make war on not only the world, but it says he's going to make war on the saints. And it says that he will overcome, trample underfoot the holy seed. Why is that? Because that is the mortal enemy of the devil. And if you're talking about an incarnate devil, you're talking about an incarnate hatred of the Most High God that dwells within the church, which is really the kingdom of God that is present within the hearts of his people, right? Not the kingdom of God on this earth, because I think the new Jerusalem, or it says the new Jerusalem that comes down out of the heavens is mother of us all, the new heavens and the new earth, wherein dwells righteousness. That ultimately is in the future. That's after the culmination of the age, and there's a new heavens and new earth. So the kingdom of God is what this power is going to be militating against. It's the kingdom that is spreading in the hearts and the minds that influences, the course of events in this world in preparation for the eternal kingdom, right? That eternal kingdom that they're not going to be a part of. The eternal kingdom that the sons of darkness and the powers that be are not going to be a part of. They understand, I think they understand that, right? There is an understanding there, because it says the devil is filled with rage because he knows his time is short. So he has an obvious understanding of time and the brevity of his rule, which is only for an hour. Well, at least the kings of the earth only have an hour rule. Remember, it says they only have an hour to rule. Now, I don't think that necessarily means 1 hour, literal, but it's a very short period of time. What happened? Did I just lose? Am I still here? Let me see here. I just saw my screen go blank. Okay, so he has a very short period of time, and he knows his time is short. He's filled with wrath. He goes out to make war. And I think that this is why, the devil does have some self-awareness. He does understand. I mean, just look at when Jesus cast out the demons of the legion. The demons cried out, don't torment us before the time. They understand that there's a time coming for them. They know their time is short, and they don't want to be tormented before the time. They asked Jesus to send them into the pigs. So I think this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a realization time is short. War is coming. It is for the purpose of snaring all of humanity into the ultimate judgment that awaits the powers of darkness. And ultimately, that's the devil's way of getting back at God, to destroy God's earth, to destroy the people that could potentially be redeemed, to take and drag them into hell along with where they're going, right? And give the illusion that they think they can win by technology, by becoming God, by making and influencing humanity to think that they somehow are the end of all things, that they themselves are God. The devil doesn't mind deceiving people. He's not deceived. Well, ultimate, utter darkness The devil is like a black hole, but he is definitely he doesn't understand. I don't think he understands the fullness of what judgment really is. At a certain point, my whole thought about hell and the whole end time culmination of the age when all of this is said and done, and when we talk about the second death, I do believe there's a hell. I do believe that there is recompense for what was done in the body after you pass. And in terms of the judgment that comes for the angels, the fallen angels, I think that's what the second death is. And what is the second death? The second death is not hellfire. I'm sorry, the second death is hellfire, or is, I don't mean hellfire, because when you hear the word hellfire, that's two different things. The fire of the lake of fire is the what we call the second death, right? But hell is not the lake of fire. Hell is cast into the lake of fire. And what is hell? It is a holding tank. It's kind of like a prison of sorts that you contemplate in that place of torment or judgment, the things that were done in the body, right? In rebellion against the Most High. So what is it? Dead man walking, you're on death row. You're basically contemplating the moment of your ultimate demise, which is going to be a cessation of everything that you are at a certain point. Yes, you're going to go through torment. Yes, you're going to go through judgment for a period of time, for a period of whatever time that is, when you're past the body. But there is a point when everything is cast into the lake of fire, which the Bible says is the second death. So the devil, all of his angels, all of those who rebelled against Christ and against God, anything that offends, everything is going to be cast into that dumpster fire that is ultimately going to purge the heavens and the earth from this evil. And what does it say? That the whole of creation is going to be consumed by a fervent heat. And what does it say? Our God is a consuming fire. And if it says our God is a consuming fire, then God is the ultimate source of the purification of evil, ultimately to get rid of it. And at a certain point, there is cessation. Now, when you die the first time on this earth, you cease to exist, right? Nobody knows where you're at. You're gone. There's no you anymore, at least not in this plane. So when it talks about the second death, do you think that might have something to do with your soul and spirit that God created? It's not eternal. You don't have eternal life. Now, there is that concept or idea of eternal torment and eternal judgment. I don't know if I go along with that, but neither here nor there. Whether or not that's true or not, that is not a salvation issue. But just know this. If you're right with God, you don't have to worry about all that. You don't have to worry about all that. Just get your heart right with God and serve him, and you'll have eternal life. You'll be with the Lord forever and ever. Amen? How many of you guys agree with that? So there's threats there, iPet, huh? Everybody should be ready. It is coming. Steamer Girl is absolutely right. Rex is out? Really? Oh, gee. Okay, I got to go get my dog. My dog got out. My wife just told me. Anyways, guys, God bless. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you back here. I think I'm going to do a devotional here in a little bit. We're going to have a little reading, a scripture reading, a little prayer, and I'll be back here in just a little bit. Okay? Not here, but on the other channel, the ministries channel. So for those who want to focus in and really get a little deeper spiritually, on the same page here with the Lord and each other, then meet me over there. I'll be back in a little bit. I'll let you know. Okay? God bless.